Hey, Joe Solari here from the Business of Writing, the author of the Business Owner's Compendium. Today we're going to talk about business models. As an author, you may be like, what do I need to know anything about business models for? I'm a writer, I'm going to write, and then I'm going to sell books to my audience. What we're going to do is we're going to take a model and we're going to use it to help you become a better writer. This will be interesting, I think, for everybody, but for you guys that are just starting out, this may really help you find the niche that fits best for your writing and connecting up with your customers. The first part of the canvas, and maybe the most important part that we're going to talk about, is customer segments. Who are you writing to? Who is your ideal reader? Understanding that and understanding their expectations will help you to write a book that they're going to be very interested in. Number 2, the value proposition. What are you going to deliver to your ideal readers? This is your brand promise. When a reader picks up your book, what should they expect when they read it? I'm not talking about you writing to a formula, but there's something that you bring as an author to your writing that they will build a bond with. And that brand promise needs to be consistent across your books. And number 3 is customer relationships. We are going to talk not about specifically marketing, but how you can use different tools and establish strong personal relationships with your readers so that they can help you understand what they want. You can get quality feedback to improve your writing. Welcome back. It's the Business of Writing. This is Joe Solari from Chicago, Illinois, and
Craig Martell from the Subarctic.
So today we're going to talk about business models and the business model of writing, and we're going to use as kind of a primer the business model generator. You don't need to run out and buy the book because we're going to go through everything here and give you a really good feel of how to use this business model in writing. And we're going to cover 3 topics today: the value proposition, your customer nurturing, and your customer segmentation. And we thought we would just get started with Craig and I talking about those subjects and why they're so important. So you were mentioning just before we came on about thinking about your market and your customer segment, and using some lean concepts. You want to kind of talk from there?
Oh, you bet. The first few books I wrote them because I wanted to write that section. But my first 4 books I wrote in 3 different genres. That's not a great recipe for success. You can be a professional author at that. You'll sell a few books, but you're not going to sell a great quantity of books because you need to build a foundation before you build your house. So how do you identify the market segment? Well, I looked at those books and I saw which one had the best traction. I watched my customer reviews. I know some people say don't read the reviews, they'll kill you or whatever. I read all my reviews and tried to align who am I connecting with? What does it look like? When I wrote my Free Trader 1, I wrote it as a space adventure, kind of like an ode to the old role-playing games. Mm-hmm. The reviewers are like, "Oh, this is written simply. It's young adult. As a young adult, it's a great book." So 8 months later, after I had 6 novels out, I rebranded it completely as young adult and marketed it, and it has sold better this year than it did its first year. Mm. You hear people talk about the 30-day, 30, 60, 90-day cliffs from Amazon where you stop getting the algorithm love. That matters unless you're doing marketing. The older a book gets, the more marketing you have to do to keep it viable. Now, if you look at the top 10 list, you'll find Harry Potter is like 7 of those 10. That's an anomaly. For your average author who's trying to build their audience, you need to keep at it, and you spend more in order to maintain that static level of sales. So actually, as a book goes on, your margin might go down because you're spending more to sell the same number of copies.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this. I rebranded as Young Adult. I hit it. I did a lot of the paid promo lists like e-reader news today, Fussy Librarian, Book Barbarian, Read Bargain Booksy, Read Cheaply. Those kind of sites that segmented their readers. I was looking for those that sent specifically to a YA list, which the YA list is populated to a great extent by older people who want to read clean books in their particular genre, whether it's YA mystery, YA science fiction. So the young adult readership, that's the readership that I connected to in the first series that really got legs.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote Post-Apocalyptic, my End Times Alaska series, 4 books, but that one was picked up by a publisher, and the publisher was huge in the post-apoc market. So they had a very, very high quality list that they worked to get those sales. It was a lot of zombie, but it was also post-apocalyptic survivalist kind of people. So that was a perfect dovetail. It wasn't trying to wedge in, hey, I just need to find a publisher. No, you need to find the right publisher, because this was a smaller publisher. However, it was perfectly aligned, and those books all hit the bestseller list for that category because the alignment. And I always talk about genre alignment. So identifying that customer segment comes back to, you got to write what you like. You can't force yourself, hey, this genre's hot. I need to write paranormal romance. I have no idea. I don't read that, so I'm not going to write that. So I wrote what I read and then worked it to what segment it fit best to. You can spend a lot of money marketing, but if you're marketing to the wrong group, it's going to be very frustrating. And it's going to hurt your process, because you're going to say, why am I writing if people aren't buying my book? Well, you're not sending it to the right people.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any, like I know recently you're looking at some newer genres that you're interested in writing in, but you haven't necessarily written in before. How are you helping to identify those customers and get a feel for them?
I use KDP Rocket. Kindlepreneur, Dave Chesson, a great product, because you can look at individual authors and books, and it will give you an estimated total sales of those books. You can also go into Amazon and find how many books are in that category if you have a book that's similar. If you understand, hey, this is kind of like this book, and it's kind of like this book. So you can break it down that way. And the Kindlepreneur, the KDP Rocket, does a great job of showing you the numbers. What is viable? How is this book selling? You don't know what kind of marketing they're doing. I see I've lost my live video feed, but you can still hear me, right?
Yes, we can still hear you.
All right. Yeah, I'm way out here, so I'm happy to have internet at all. So that's how I do it. You've got, because there's so many books on the market, you have got to be able to find one that's similar in flavor to your own. Even though yours might be 10 times better, it could be worse. You don't know, but find something similar, because you should be writing in a genre that you read. So you find something and look at that book. Use KDP Rocket, use Amazon, and dig into it and see. And that's your viable market.
Yeah, I also use KDP Rocket. I think it's an awesome tool to help you find data quickly, and then you can always drill down. The other tool, I don't know if you've seen, is called Yassive. It's free.
Yeah.
And it shows you the nodes and clusters of books. And what I think is interesting about that is you can find, when you look at that graphically, you can see connector books, like ones that seem to be bridging into different books that maybe are similar to yours. And you hit on a really key point. Most people don't have the opportunity in whatever business they're in to go and read what people think about their competitor, right? Like you can go and, if you're going into a genre, you can go and read the top 100 and dig in there and see what people like and what they don't like.
Yeah.
To help you to really understand how to feed into that market. And I know there's there's a lot of folks that are like, well, I'm writing for my love of writing, and that's great. Like you said, that has to be the very first piece. But if you are interested in thinking about this as a business, then there's some real basics here we have to focus on. All markets are about supply and demand. The awesome thing is, as a writer, you have endless supply, right? Like you can create the content, but you need to go where the demand is. And I'm not one to say that you have to focus, like you said, on a specific hot category. What I'm saying is understand that segment, right? And understand that, like if you use Kindlepreneur and you look at just searches on, say, steampunk versus paranormal romance versus romance, you can just see that those markets scale up from 1x to 3x to 9x, right? Just by the number of searches they're doing. So if you are deciding to write in one of those smaller categories, at least then your expectations are set. That it's not going to be, there probably isn't the capacity there for a big, huge breakout. Now, the great thing is, although our product is consumable, there's a lot of people there to consume that product, right? That just because they read a space book doesn't mean they're done reading space books. They're going to go read more space books.
Yeah.
Yep. So over here you have this customer segment that we're looking to feed into. The next big thing for us to talk about is the value proposition. So what is an author going into that segment is your special sauce that you're bringing to it? Why would somebody pick up your book versus somebody else's book? And I think it's important for us authors to be able to articulate that, because if we don't understand that in our own heads, how are we ever going to translate that to our readers?
Yeah. That's probably the hardest question you get, because most writers, and I'll make this blanket statement that most writers are introverts of some sort, and you're on the street and, hey, I'm an author. Well, tell me about your book. Ooh. You got to have that one-liner ready. Free Trader series, Michael Scott Earl hooked me up with that one. A cat and his human minions. So they fight to bring peace to humanity. So you have that little bit of dichotomy. They're fighting for peace. So what does that mean? So a couple taglines. Have a tagline for each of your books. Have an overall series arc memorized so you can just spit it out there. It sounds interesting. Can you tell me more? All right. Hey, what do you want to hear? Want to hear about the cat? About the guy that can talk with the cat? What do you want to hear? You can't say it enough that it starts with the cover, and everything you do is add copy to get them to take the next step. Starship Troopers. I like the movie. As long as you don't associate it with the book. Heinlein's book is great. I think the movie is great as a separate entity, and especially you're watching it, and right there it pops up. Do you want to know more? Mm-hmm. And that's great. It's like, yes, hey, that's great. They're squashing bugs. They're shooting them with the blaster. Be able to do that with your book. So you have your cover. Your cover has to be genre aligned. You can't have a shirtless dude and call it mill sci-fi. I know you see those in there, but that's not. You really want maybe a dude with a ripped shirt and scars and bleeding and a thunder stick who's laying waste in a wasteland. Okay, now that might say mill sci-fi, but you have to align that cover. Writers do that way too much, is they make their blurb a synopsis. You can put the synopsis on the back cover, but your blurb needs to be something different. It needs to be ad copy. Hey, how about this? Oh, what is this? What is this dichotomy going on? Oh my God, I have to read more. So in Amazon, you can go to the look inside. You can read those first few pages. So your first few pages have to be killer. They have to be draw the reader in and keep them going. So it all goes to that. If you need an immense amount of background and encyclopedic information for the people to understand your story, and you put all this information up front, guess what? You're going to have a problem keeping your readers, because nobody wants to read the Encyclopedia Britannica to then look at something else. And I see a lot of readers do that. They start laying out start building their world on the first page, and it's boring as hell. It's like, hey, just show us what you can see right at this moment and then build. Don't say, hey, there's a building. It's 10 stories tall. It has 80 windows. And you're like, oh my God, my brain is dying. And don't do that. Hit them with something that they say, I need to keep reading. And it needs to go beyond that look inside slice, beyond 10, 15 pages. So you put enough front matter so you don't bore the snot out of them. And then when they actually get to the book, they're reading stuff that keeps them interested. That's what your first chapter is so critical, because then you might get them to pick up the book. Yeah. Blurb, cover, blurb, your first chapter that gets past the look inside feature in Amazon. And that is if you can get there, then you've got them into your book. If you can't get them there, if your first chapter is so boring that like Amazon ads, Facebook ads, they will tell you the number of clicks because they're going to charge you by that. So people click over. You've got 1,000 people click over and one person bought the book. It's your blurb, it's your cover, it's your look inside. Something is not converting them. If you have 10 clicks and a sale, you're a hero. That's what you're looking for. You can have, I've got ads with a million impressions. But only 1,500 clicks, but I've got 150 sales. That's a winner. It's drawing them in a way that it keeps them going. So an author, you can write great stories, but if you have to also think like a businessman. And the businessman, we've all gotten telemarketer calls. Why do you think they push so hard to get that sale right now on that first call? Because once you hang up and think about it, you're probably not coming back. Chances are low. It's like 25% that if they call back, they'll get a sale. Whereas if they can get that commitment in the first one, it's 90%. So once you get them on the hook and looking, they start reading your blurb. That's why I keep my blurb short. More link on Amazon because I want them to actually go to the look inside and start reading.
Well, I think there's an important thing there you hit on is, your value proposition isn't the book that you want to write. That's about you as an author, right? I think we actually have that exact cup in our house. So yeah, it's great that you finally write that book that you want to write, but that's not your value proposition. The value proposition has to be about what your customers want, and that's where that book is going to go in that segment. So if, like you say, it's Mills sci-fi, they're not going to want it to be a romance book, right? Yeah. And then the other piece that you were laying out that I think is really important to think about is that, and I think it's hard for authors because they're so close to their material, is they have to think like a reader again, and like, what is it that a reader does? There's specific behaviors that readers do, right? Like you said, they're going to pick up your book somehow, either through an ad or it's, if you like this, you'll like that on Amazon, whatever it is, they go to it. How are you getting them to walk down that path with you to get to that, like you said, that first chapter or whatever it is that you feel is going to get them on the hook to read the book? And there's a lot of good tips out there on how to make sure that you do that around your blurb. Certainly, the thing that bugs the hell the most for me, because I'm a big look inside person, is people that spend a ton of time, with their table of contents and a whole bunch of junk, and they're talking about stuff that isn't relevant to me. I want to, like you said, I want to read a couple of paragraphs, understand if this book is what I'm looking for. I understand you want to get people to sign up on your list, but really it's got to be about thinking about what the customer sees. And if it's really salesy and trying to get them on a list, that's not helping the reader decide is this book the next book I want to read for, the next month?
Yeah. Well, and value proposition, we need to look at that, because you need to sell your book. If you have one book and you put it out there for free, you've made a major mistake. They're not going to come back. They'll download your book. You want to have other books. So your free book at the end says, here, buy book 2 because it's available, or 3, 4, 5. Here's the picture of all the covers. So value, when you do something, you have to have the intentionality of how am I going to make money off this? Otherwise, you're just a hobbyist, and that's not what we're here for. This is the business of writing. If you've written a book and you've published it, you would like to see it sell and then make money off it. The value proposition is if you can get them to buy that book, now how people, and then start building your foundation. When I produce a book, I track all my costs. And so if I've spent $1,500, if I put the book up for 99 cents on the first day, that means I'm only getting 35% royalty. So 35 cents times X equals $1,500. Okay, I got to sell, 4,500 copies that first day in order to make my money back. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I have a good readership, but I don't have those kinds of massive numbers. I might push 2,000 copies in a day. Hey, not bad at all, and recover most of the costs. But then the price goes up to the normal price. And what I've spent a lot of time on is building my Amazon followers. A lot of my books, when they come out at 99 cents, I'll buy 50 or 100 copies. Okay, a free Booksy ad is $70. If I buy 100 copies of my book at 99 cents, that's $99. However, when they're redeemed, I get that revenue. I get that income back. So I've actually only paid $65. So for 100 copies that I can post as a giveaway, post on Facebook, promote as an ad on Facebook, I will get X number of followers. So 100 books, you have, I run really low giveaways, like 1 out of 10, to give the people a chance and pull more people in. So they look, and it's genre aligned, trying to hit those sci-fi readers and get those followers. So I'll publish a book for the first day. And for those people who are on my newsletter and follow me on Facebook, they get it for 99 cents. Then the next day it goes up to full price, $3.99 or $4.99. The Amazon followers will not get the note from Amazon for 5 days to 30 days. They'll segment that list and send those out depending on whether the people click or not. So that's the time frame you're going to get the people buying it at full price. And I have that has built. So my value proposition is that within 1 week, I will be in the black. And I don't count on that for the 99-cent deal. That's a reward. So I build that base, and at some point in time, maybe I'll hit those 5,000 on the first day. And those are real numbers. You're selling 5,000 copies of a book on the first day. That's a real number. Yeah. That's a good readership because they're following you. They're waiting for that book to come out, and they're hitting buy.
Well, and that's an important thing for new authors to understand is that, it's probably not going to be that way unless you've caught lightning in a bottle. It's making sure you're tracking what it is and then having a plan and trying to do better than that on the next launch and the next launch, and you build that foundation. A lot of authors are impatient with the marketing piece, but it's just like writing the book. It takes time to build up, and you're going to get way more value out of building a list and building those customer relationships that are stronger and have the right relationships rather than having tons and tons of names on a list and they're just people they never buy books, right? They've got a system to basically read for free.
I avoid the group giveaways where it's $100 gift card because that pulls in people who want the gift card and they don't necessarily. I think it's low value because you're going to get a large number of. If it was free to then send out an email to all these new subscribers, hey, if you got 1 out of 100, that's fine, but it's not free. All of your mail list servers, MailerLite, MailChimp, all of those charge by the name. So if you have all of a sudden 10,000 new names, they're going to charge you. And if you're only getting 1 out of 1,000 to buy the book, it's not going to pay for itself. So those are low value. I don't participate in those anymore because it's painful to see 200 people unsubscribe in a single day. So I want to build it and have built it organically. Mm-hmm. I sent an email this morning, a newsletter out, and usually I get an unsubscribe within a minute or two. Okay, hey, the list is culling. But I think I've finally gotten it to where I've got people who understand me, and I send out 2 or 3 newsletters a month. I have 2,300 on my list. And I subscribe so far after it's been out for nearly an hour, that's a almost like a new record for me for not having unsubscribes.
What was that unsubscribe number?
1.
Okay.
I have 1.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit more on this. This is kind of the third piece. So we talked about customer segmentation. We talked about value proposition. The next thing really is customer relationships. And so what, I know you've tried a lot of things. We were talking earlier about your Facebook Lives. Those were cool when they worked, right? When you were kind of reading the book as you went along. So what are you, of course, there's the mailing list. That's kind of like every author's go-to thing. But what do you think are the really good tools and best ways to build a relationship with your customer? Not just get names on a list, not just sink your time into marketing, but really, I guess there's almost 2 questions to this. What do you think is the right kind of relationship that you should have with your audience, and how do you do it?
One of the best things that I've been able to do is I promote my Facebook page a lot. So, excuse me. I've run contests, like naming contests. Hey, the main character has a child. What should we name him? And then we name it, select a winner, and then put it in the author notes. Reviewers on Amazon, those people who give reviews, and 3 stars or higher, I'll put them on the page. Hey, thank you for dropping a few lines. Appreciate it. And just highlight them. If it says Amazon customer, no, I don't put that in there. But like if you left a review as Joe S. Hey, Joe S., thank you. I appreciate that. We're looking to bring that character back if you mentioned something specifically. Highlighting people in the author notes is important. I found that I get more and more emails from readers. And I've hired a PA. I have a personal assistant now too, so I can manage this a little better. Hey, you know what? I'm mentioning that in the next book. Here's the paragraph out of the next book that addresses that issue. People like that. That is a personal relationship. Hey, you've asked me a question and I've answered you in a way that you're going to know before anybody else. And that builds not just a fan, but a super fan. And everybody wants those super fans, those first 20, 30 people who will buy your book on day 1, read it that day, and then leave a review saying, hey, this is right up there with the rest in this series. This is a new series, but man, it's gripping. It's whatever. You can't put a price on super fans. I try to highlight them in my author notes every single time because they are your marketers as well. People call it a street team. Hey, your folks who, once your book hits the street, these people start scattering the word, spreading the word. Those are good, and I guess that's what you could call the super fans. But it also keeps me honest because I will send them, hey, what do you think of this? And they're going to be like, oh, I don't think that works. Okay, great. What do I need to do to make it work? And so I get pre-reads, and generally my reviews are very, very good because I don't go way out and violate the reader expectations. And that's part of the product. As you're writing, especially long series, it is a product. You can still write what you love, but I tried on Nomad Book 7. I tried a different style of writing with numerous flashbacks. It was fairly complex to write, but it was fun, and it was a different way of storytelling, and it helped flesh out a lot of the rest of the series, the other 6 books, with gaps in time and stuff. Oh man, the beta readers hated that. They said, "Oh, I get jerked back and forth in time. I can't." So I had to rewrite the whole book, and I did that in a 2-day marathon writing session. I rewrote the whole book, took out all the flashbacks, made it linear, and it was very well received. Had I launched it as I initially wrote it, I would have been crucified, and then books 8, 9, and 10 would have been jeopardized. And we don't want to do that. So, okay, I was a little bit disappointed, but that's okay, because I've developed this readership through the first 6 books. 7th, I try something new. Okay, don't do that. It's okay. You have to align with your reader expectations with the product that is your story, but it becomes bigger than that as you've developed your readership. It becomes you. So how do you keep your brand set? Like posting on Facebook, I'll post various things, but it all goes back to what is my brand, and my brand is my main character's good moral compass, good doing right by the world, and those kinds of things. I do my best not to get into political discussions, religious discussions. Sure, I have opinions, but you can't win with that. You're just going to piss off 50% of the people, no matter which side you take. There's a side. And so I'll share pictures of rabbits or a moose looking in my window, as opposed to getting on the side of a debate. I mean, because the NFL thing, I made the mistake of posting something on that, the taking a knee. As a 21-year Marine Corps veteran, of course I have an opinion, but my readers don't need to see that. Sure. It's important, and you can probably guess what my opinion is from my books and from me. But it's a non-winner. You cannot win going that route. And there are authors who dig into this segment, but that's your brand. Ones who are raging conservatives, liberals, and I don't like those terms, but you have a segment of the population that you relate to, that you're writing to. Well, if that's your brand, then milk it. Do it. Go there, but that has to be an intentional decision, not all of a sudden, hey, I lost 50% of my readership, but I had to have my say. Well, understand that's a business decision.
Yeah, that's a really good. You can. That's absolutely your prerogative. You can go do that, but there may be consequences to those actions, right? That's really the heart of, if you're focusing on this as a business, and you have done a good job to identify this customer segment, and then you build this attachment to that readership, and then violate that trust, guess what?
Yeah, you're going to lose readers.
It's like any relationship. When you violate that trust, when you change your behavior, they're going to be like, hey, this isn't what I signed up for. And it's their right to go out and find somebody who's going to treat them the way they want to be treated. Because it is, in the end, it's their money, and they're making a buying decision. And if you want that money, you're going to have to establish some kind of commercial relationship. And then sometimes it may be hard for readers to hear this, but it's a brand promise, right? It's just like when you open up Oreos, you expect them to taste the same way every time, right? Like, if they don't, then
you can expand. You can write a little bit differently, and I've done that over the books. But you have to do it incrementally. You can't jerk them to all of a sudden you're doing literary fiction with very flowery language and changing your style completely. So you can grow. I have gotten some incredible reviews saying, "Man, your books were good to begin with, but they're great now. You're really growing as a writer." I love hearing that, because I really try hard to write the next word better than the last. And it's good to see when readers notice that, hey, it was a good story, but man, it's a great story now. And that's part of the brand. I write fairly consistently because that's what I like to write. And sharing that with the readership. So my personal Facebook page is no longer my personal Facebook page. I share very little. Yes, personal stuff because I live in the subarctic. It's Alaska, but not like political opinions or stuff like that.
Well, and on the customer relationship, and one of the great things that has come out of the indie publishing movement is having beta readers or advanced readers or a reading group, whatever you want to call it. Those fans that, you know, sometimes they have even a better grip of your character development than you might.
Yeah.
That's a super powerful tool that it wasn't around in the past, right? Like if you were a writer, you would go to your editor and they would have their opinion, but there wasn't a whole lot you could do to know really what your fans are thinking. And if you do have that relationship built over time, and you know, it take you a bit of time, but if you are writing a series and maybe by book 3 you've got, you know, 4 or 5 people that really care and reach out to you, use that. I mean, that is going to help you. And that gives you that opportunity to try that stuff out. Like your example where you did try it and they said, hey, you know, it's just not fitting with the series.
Yep.
Now, maybe you take what you learned from that and say, okay, well, I'm going to write a series that's going to be all about that and build those readers in a different way. It doesn't mean you can't use that.
Exactly.
I mean, it, but yeah, that's so important is to with any kind of relationships, right, is honor what that relationship is built on and stay consistent to it. I think we hit the 3 topics that we were going to talk about. You kind of want to give a wrap up on, you know, your thinking on, you know, value proposition, customer segment, and the customer relationship connection between these 2.
Amazon went an awful long time without turning a profit. Now they're hugely profitable and make an awful lot of money and employ a huge number of people. You have to understand as a new author that you may not make money right away. You may not recover your costs. I didn't. Hey, somebody just popped up and I'm not sure they were fully dressed. Yeah. Anyway, I'm distracted now. You may not make Amazon. A profit. Yeah, for me, it was 10 months, 11 months before I made real money. And I was in the red. Now, I invested an awful lot of money because I said, I'm treating this as a professional business, so I'm going to invest this money in me to start off with. I knew my publication schedule. Initially, I thought like 1 book every 2 months, but then I saw as writing full time as I got better and better. Okay, 1 a month. My rhythm is publishing 1 book a month. That being said, I've been published for 20 months and I have 25 separate novels published, so it actually hit a little quicker than that. But once I hit that, you have to understand your costs are here, your profit is here when you first start, and if you keep the costs the same, well, you need the profit to grow. And over time you do that. And if it's not, well, then you need to cut costs in order to be profitable. And at some point, if you've written 20 books and you're making no money and you've gone all the routes, maybe you have to consider this might not be for you. Or find something. Why? Find some person who is a trusted agent who can come and tell you this is why you're not working. You've written 20 books, but they're 20 different genres. You're not building. Each one is like a brand new book. And a brand new book in a new series from an unestablished author isn't going to find the legs you think it is. There's 1 in a million who that first book, holy cow, is I sold 100,000 copies. That's rare. That's very, very rare. It's more like you're going to publish your first book and you may recover your costs. And then your second book and third book is the third book in a series is usually your gravy train. Now you've got 3 books. People will consider you a real writer. And especially as you build readers, if your first book only had, why do you like this book? What about it makes you want to read more? The reviewers, there's certain things you can do. Don't talk to reviewers. Don't comment on reviews. Well, if you have no reviews and you've got 1 book and 3 reviews and you don't know the reviewers, which is a good thing to do, sure, ask them. And that may seem counter to all the advice you've heard of never comment on reviews is you need data to make a business decision. If you're sitting there with one book published, you've sold 20 copies total in 3 months, and you've gotten 3 reviews, you want to find out why those 3 reviewers took the time and then gave you the numbers they did, unless you know them, if they're family or friends or whatever. But you want that information to make a better business decision going forward. This genre does not work for you. You don't write it well. Okay. Well, hey, I love writing, but let me find something else. Sometimes it's tough love on what you need to do. Hey, the writing was stilted here. You can fix that. You can fix everything, unless you call all your readers puke holes or something like that. You don't want to do that. You never, ever. And this is a universal. Never, ever attack your reader. If a reader hates your book and comes after you personally, you have to ask yourself, how did the book get into this person's hands? And it goes back to your marketing way, and we blanketed the world. Okay, this is what you need to do. So, hey, my internet connection is unstable, so yeah. we'll wrap it up. Everything you get is data that you can use to make a better business decision moving forward. If you've written one book and you're going to make that one book the entirety of your portfolio, then you better be a marketing guru, and that book better be the best book ever written in order to get the legs. The average Jeff incrementally build that foundation. 3 books a year, that's fine, but just understand it's just going to take you longer to build that foundation than somebody who's publishing a book a month and trying to find those readers and bringing them into the fold, and then also having a big backlist. It's easier to make money. I checked, let me pull my spreadsheet and my data. I have my full spreadsheet here. Like my Free Trader 1, it's free today. Dad with Free Trader 2 is 99 cents on a countdown deal. So I get actually 65 cents after the download fee from a sale of that. Well, I have a 21.6% read-through rate to book 2 from book 1. And that I take into account all the free giveaways as well as all the sales and then the page reads. So 21.6, the industry standard is 10%. So I've got a book that people want to keep reading. So 20%, if I can get the book into 1,000 people's hands, 200 of them are going to go on to book 2. That is a huge, huge win for me. And it's nice to have that data because it says book 1 is viable. And I love seeing that number. And then it goes up to 80% after that. So if I can get them into book 2 and into book 3, then I've got all the way through to book 6, and I think it's $18, $20. So for every book I give away, I can make, I think it comes out to $5. So that's a pretty good number considering because of the backlist. So I've got those calculations. So giving books away to the right genre, to science fiction readers, I get a value. 1 out of 5 will go on to book 2, and book 2 costs. And so if they're willing to pay, you want to find readers who are willing to pay.
Right. No, that's all great advice.